Neil, I hear you were one of 700,000 on the weekend. Is that right?
Yep, we're at the Brexit March getting our message out there.
Now, another Brexit March. Now, there's been quite a few of them now, hasn't there?
Yeah, and they're just getting bigger and bigger.
Now, so 700,000 they estimated.
Yeah, and that's compared to the 1,200 that turned up to the Leave rally.
Wow.
So I think we know where the will of the people's going on this one.
Gosh. Well, it's not been the first march you've been on. I've been on a couple myself. And what we're going to do today is we are going to actually look into an article which comes from the Christian Post. So we're not coming from a secular standpoint to start with, but we are going to critique in a secular mode, if you like, this piece of Christian rhetoric, shall we call it. This comes from the ChristianPost.com, The Ways of Atheist Indoctrination, and this comes from Randal Rauser. He's a professor of historical theology at Taylor Seminary in Alberta, and he blogs at randalrauser.com, and we have heard him on Premier Christian Radio's Unbelievable show, which usually pits an atheist against a theist, usually, not always. And he's been on that show many, many times, taking the Christian standpoint. And he usually seems, quite sedate, quite conciliatory. But in this piece here, he talks about how you atheists out there, you're also indoctrinating. It's not just us. And now this is really odd, isn't it? Because we read this earlier.
It's not just odd, it's infuriating that this is what Christians on the Christian Post are reading, these sort of stories, because if that's where they're getting the news from, they're going to believe this. So we're going to go through it point by point and rip it apart.
Okay. We're going to have a look at this now. Many atheists, he starts, are keen to identify indoctrination within Christian or other religious communities. Not surprisingly, however, they typically fail to recognize the extent that indoctrination can occur among atheists. In this article, I am going to take a look at indoctrination in the contemporary resurgence of atheism known as the New Atheism. I thought that was old hat myself, but still, apparently, they still think new is new. And we were reading this amongst ourselves yesterday, and we did actually say, it's not a belief system, you can't use the word indoctrinated. And here he seems to pip us to the post. He said, I can already hear the atheist retort, indoctrinated? How can an atheist be indoctrinated? After all, atheism simply is a rejection of theism. Okay, now we're going to stop there, really. I think it's a good idea to actually look in the dictionary at the words indoctrination and doctrine. The act of indoctrinating, or teaching, or inculcating a doctrine, principle, or ideology, especially one with a specific point of view. Religious indoctrination. That is the dictionary.com's definition of indoctrination. And doctrine is a particular principle, position, or policy taught or advocated as of a religion or government. For an instance, it gives Catholic doctrines or the Monroe Doctrine.
And it's something that is taught.
Yeah. Something that is taught. It's an ideology, a religion, or a government. I think in that case they might be talking about a more dictatorial government. But the point is that the principles and the precepts that are trying to get across are these ineffable precepts. You can't deny them in any way whatsoever. True is true and they always will be true, and you can't say anything against them.
So, first off, can someone point me to the atheist doctrine? I haven't found one yet, have you?
No, I've been told many times.
I've been told many times
there is one. But read Richard Dawkins' book, and that's your Bible. Or Charles Darwin is your guru, or all sorts of things like that. But no, there isn't one, is there?
No, there absolutely isn't.
There's no creed.
That's just a fact. And anyone who's religious, who may be hearing that for the first time, there is no set of beliefs amongst atheists. The only thing we have in common is our lack of belief in God. That's the only thing we have in common.
In the same way as, say, Christians do not believe in Osiris.
Yeah, they're atheists. They're atheists about Osiris, for sure.
Yeah, that's not an ideology of non-belief in Osiris.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, let's go on and see what Randal says. It is true that atheism is not a unified ideology, let alone an institution. Okay, that seems good. But that does not mean that self-professing atheists are automatically exempt from the danger of indoctrination. In fact, the lack of formal institution, creed, or leader may, ironically enough, cultivate a false sense of intellectual independence and liberation amongst atheists that can render an individual even more vulnerable to indoctrination. What is necessary for indoctrination is not a magisterium or sacred text, but simply a set of beliefs that inhibit critical thought. And in this article, I will argue that the new atheism is broadly characterized with these kinds of indoctrinational beliefs. Right, now...
I'm looking forward to hearing what his set of beliefs
I knew you were going to say... Yeah, I knew you were going to say... Set of... That really jumps out to me as well.
Yeah, so, and...
Now, that's a positive claim, isn't it? Had to have a set of beliefs.
Yes.
Something you can point to.
So he's got to now prove his point that there's a set of beliefs because he's made a claim. So we'll see where this is going, but on here it's also a set of beliefs that inhibit critical thought. It's a funny statement coming from someone who is taking his character from a 6,000-year-old book rather than the latest scientific findings, but okay.
There you go. It continues, one of the most effective ways to inure an ideology from critical appraisal is by convincing those who hold it that it is not a set of beliefs in need of defense, but rather a common sense conclusion that should be recognized by any rational person. And he quotes Sam Harris here. I think it might be good just to read this quote, which obviously he takes umbrage with. Atheism is not a philosophy. It is not even a view of the world. It is simply an admission of the obvious. In fact, atheism is a term that should not even exist. So, actually, stopping there, I do actually agree with that. Atheism, the word atheism only exists because of the preponderance of theism. There's so much religion and belief in things that you can't prove, as far as we're concerned, that there has to be this term atheism.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Just means...
And there shouldn't be a word for it because it takes indoctrination of a child to make them believe in any particular form of doctrine.
Yeah, you must believe this.
They don't
set
hold any
of rules.
Babies don't hold any position on the Bible or the Quran or the gods of Egypt when they're young. They have to be indoctrinated with it.
Absolutely. We're just condensing this. He's getting upset, Randal Rauser here. He's getting upset that some of the new atheists, I assume he's talking about Dawkins and Daniel Dennett and, of course, Sam Harris, seem to equate a believing in God with not being rational. And I think that he finds that upsetting. But we're just basically saying, okay, it may be true, but try to question it critically.
To me, looking at this, he doesn't seem to have a real argument that there's any indoctrination in atheist circles. What he seems to have a problem with is there is a scientific method that is taught in schools which leads to critical thinkers, and those critical thinkers question the certain doctrine that he adheres to. Yeah. That's what he seems to have a problem with. Not only is he indoctrinating people, he is then claiming the other side just because they've learned critical thinking skills. Maybe not all atheists have, but the ones that have and talk openly about why they are atheists, he just doesn't like that.
No, it does seem to be, the whole thing seems to be an article about you're criticizing us and we don't like that.
Yeah.
You really have to break it down because it's quite a long article. There is a section here on atheists who want atheism to be true. That's the name of the title of the section. And just briefly at the beginning it says, the predictable result of new atheist indoctrination is an inability to take the views of the religiously devout person with intellectual care and charity. In other words, don't make fun of us. How dare you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Intellectual care and charity.
We are, by saying look deeper into it and question it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's just a strange one. That's just saying don't question my views, isn't it? Isn't it? Because how can you, if you want to be intellectual about conversation, you should be open to all the new evidence, all the new science, the DNA, everything that basically proves that your written text has got loads and loads of errors in it. But he wants you to be polite about, and I don't get this. He's basically just saying, do not question me.
I think what it is he knows that there are silly bits in the Bible.
Yeah.
Don't bring them up publicly because you'll embarrass me. Don't mention the talking donkey.
Don't mention the talking donkey.
No, I'm not being funny. I honestly think that's what it is. So what if Randal's child came home one day, or teenage child, let's say, comes home and says, I have now taken on Islam, right? I would then expect him to say, okay, Do you really think Muhammad made the night journey on the flying horse?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think he would feel the same way then, would he?
Yeah.
But
it's hard to know what happened, because if the child said, "Oh yeah, I thought about it and I think it's true," really he's as guilty as his father for believing that Jonah, lived in a giant fish for several days.
yeah, it's just it's mostly going over old stuff.
Did you notice he's got some definitions here, and there's some bullet points afterwards. He describes what the new atheism is. I don't really hear that term anymore, but he says the new atheism is a strident, anti-religious form of atheism that has emerged as a force in popular culture since 9/11, and which is represented by its four leaders, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, and Christopher Hitchens. Again, this seems like something he should have written maybe 10, 20 years ago.
I've always had a problem with this new atheist is a strident organisation. Why? When they mean strident, they mean you dare to even ask us a question.
Yeah.
That's what they mean by strident. They mean sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
That's basically what they mean. Be good people. Don't express your opinions or views.
Yeah.
And then
don't challenge us too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's nothing strident about questioning the reality of life. There's nothing strident about questioning where morals come from. There's nothing strident in that at all. That's just what you should naturally do. We should naturally all be asking questions all the time.
And let's be critical of ourselves as well. Do you think he's right when he says the new atheism, or at least what Dawkins, etc., have been talking about? Do you think it's anti-religious? And if so, do you think there's anything wrong with that? Putting you on the spot here.
Anti-religious, if you mean they're saying they don't believe that religion is right, then I guess you could
organized religion, perhaps.
I guess you could claim it's anti-religious, but I don't see anything wrong with being anti-religious, to tell the truth, because it's been used to perpetrate so many harmful things through history.
Oh, if you look at, say, I don't know, throwing gay people off of roofs, because they're gay, because of your religion, I would then say, yes, I think I'm anti-religious. And I know
the Inquisition.
Yes, yeah.
Or the Inquisitions, or what's going on around the world right now with the rise of the Christian right in the Philippines.
But apparently, we'll be accused of being generalizing now.
But when a religion, certainly Christian religion, whose supposed poster boy Jesus was supposed to have said, don't go to church, don't believe the religions, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Yeah, shouldn't Christians be anti-religious organisations?
Yeah, you will, but you will get Christians who will say to me, I'm not a religious, I am a Jesus follower.
Because pretty much every one of these organisations was set up just to control the masses at the beginning. And they created untold pain, suffering, and committed so many atrocities because of it. So I'm definitely anti-religious organisations.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Okay, right, on a different subject now. We are going to the HollywoodReporter.com. Now, why on earth are we going there? Leah Remini tackles Jehovah's Witnesses in Season 3 of Scientology and the Aftermath. Now, this is interesting because we watched the Scientology and the Aftermath. With 2 seasons of that already. Leah Remini, of course, had been in the Church of Scientology and left and is now speaking out about it together with Mike Rinder. And now there's this special one-off coming in November. The actress is moving beyond Scientology for a special preceding the 3rd season premiere of her Emmy-winning docuseries. A&E on Thursday announced the air date for Leah Remini's 2-hour special about Jehovah's Witnesses. The program, which will air on November 13 at 9 p.m., now this is in America, will precede the premiere of Season 3 of Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. The preview special will include Remini speaking in depth with former Jehovah's Witness members. I think Lloyd Evans is one of them, who we've interviewed on the show. I thought Jehovah's Witnesses were just nice people knocking on doors, Remini says in a teaser. We have received many letters saying, please look into the Jehovah's Witnesses.
I thought Jehovah's Witnesses were just nice people knocking on doors. We have received many letters. Please look into the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Take Scientology, add 8 million members, and you've got Jehovah's Witnesses.
It's the same formula, mind control.
They believe that it'll get fixed internally.
We owe the people who have asked for our help to actually do something.
Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath, special event November 13th on A&E.
Now, Neil, we've had a lot of interactions with Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and of course there was the big protest in London a couple of months ago. And there's certainly a lot of cause for concern because of the cover-up of pedophilia, which is huge, and there's other abuses to do with shunning and losing your family because of the dogma of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised, really, that she got all these requests.
No, and it's good that they're covering it and they're going to move out into other religions, because a lot of people aren't really aware about what the Jehovah's Witnesses do. I mean, they're very much like that advert for her. She just thought they were nice people who go knocking on doors to spread their
we weren't
religion.
Until a couple of years ago we started doing this, and now it's like, wow, every day we learn something more and more shocking, really. And not just them, there's the Mormons. Maybe she will take on the Mormons one day.
That would be good. But this is going to open up a lot of people's eyes to the abuses of the church, the brainwashing. One of the worst things is also definitely if you decide to leave, you lose your whole family. They're not allowed to talk to you anymore. The shunning, that's disgusting.
Yeah, which they think is a good thing.
Yeah, they think it's a good thing, but and then you've also got, obviously, there's been lots of stories of kids dying because parents won't give them blood transfusions and the like. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
Definitely looking forward to that. And we're coming up to the end of the show, but we've got to mention what's happening on October 26th in Ireland. Irish citizens will have the opportunity to vote in a referendum and overturn their nation's blasphemy laws once and for all. Now, this comes from the Friendly Atheist at patheos.com. Article goes on to say, it's a long time coming. Article 40.6.1 of the Irish Constitution prohibits publication or utterance of blasphemous content, which is obviously in the eye of the beholder. It's not just a remnant of older law either. It's been evoked in recent years to punish comedians who called a Catholic communion wafer haunted bread and questioned why a benevolent God would ever create something as awful as bone cancer in children. Now, I think that was referring to the infamous Stephen Fry interview. While they could have been fined up to €25,000 for their statements, both cases were dropped after international bad press. So I think that's probably what's led to this referendum, and it looks like it probably will go the way of repealing this.
I hope so. They've been pretty good at reversing some horrendous laws in Ireland recently. I think this one's going to be a bit closer, though, probably. I'm not sure you're going to get as many people flying home as you did for the gay marriage,
the abortion, and
so this could be a bit closer.
Divorce before that.
But I mean, what sort of world this goes back to the first article, the guy basically saying, Randal basically saying, don't question us.
Yes.
This is the same thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And he's probably just a bit fed up that in his country they don't have blasphemy laws anymore. But, blasphemy laws are pretty much just a medieval tool to control people. Who are you hurting by saying a communion wafer is haunted bread?
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
It's no different than, say, Kim Jong-un saying you cannot possibly say anything against our family, the ruling dynasty here in North Korea.
And the question of why would a benevolent God create something as terrible as bone cancer is a legitimate question.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a legitimate question. So, I hope it goes. And blasphemy laws around the world should be gone and rid of. I mean, so many countries in regimes that are dictatorships, pretty much. Yeah. They use that as a tool to suppress their population.
I think we're talking the countries like Afghanistan and Bangladesh.
Germany just recently prosecuted a comedian for taking the mick out of a Turkish guy on religious grounds. So they're not the only progressive country that needs to get rid of these laws. I do believe Spain still has some sort of blasphemy law as well, because I saw something pop up on my Facebook timeline.
Oh, do they really care, or are they just sort of protecting their asses?
It's religious people not wanting to be questioned, I guess. And
I mean, politically, they think it looks better to kowtow to the
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a throwback to how religious institutions had so much political power in the past. It's a throwback that a lot of countries just haven't dealt with yet.
It doesn't seem very democratic either.
Not at all.
You can't do this. You can't say this. You can't object to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is, as I always said, this is the problem with belief in the supernatural. You can't sort of prove or disprove it. So if you say a god is offended by that and it'll affect us all, with tsunamis or something, as I say, you can't prove or disprove it. It's just like, it's really annoying, rock in a hard place sort of situation.
But let's just get rid of these things. Let's ask the awkward questions and let things stand on their own 2 feet. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, dialogue and discussions
and just
debates.
If people are thinking more or leading to be less religious or not liking your version of religious anymore, that's still not saying you can't stay with your religion. That's not telling you what you have to do, just allowing them the freedom to say what they want to say.
Exactly. Yeah, and on that note, I think we will call it a day, and we'll be back here next week. And next week we're going to go back into the world of evolution, and we're going to look at some articles on that subject, and of course creationism. And I will see you here next week.